Hi there, this is Bob Hatton with another edition of Encouraging Words. I wish you God's blessing today. I hope you have a very good day. It's a little bit cold here in Germany, a little bit windy where we are sitting, but I hope you are all well. We're in Acts chapter 9 and we're following this really an exciting story of the early church. We're coming towards the end of Acts chapter 9. We've met Saulus of Tarsus, the persecutor of the church, who was on his way to Damascus with letters of authority to go and destroy the church that was in that city. He wanted to take the believers captive, arrest them and bring them to Jerusalem. But on his way to Damascus, he had a mighty encounter with Jesus and he's converted. His life is changed in an instant. He becomes blind because of this bright light that he's seen, and he has to wait for a certain time until a man called Ananias comes to see him. Ananias then prays with him. He receives his sight back. He's filled with the Spirit. He's baptized in water, and immediately he begins to teach in the synagogue that Jesus is the Son of God, that Jesus is the awaited Messiah. And he does that with such an enthusiasm and such a zeal that this gets him into trouble. And people want to kill him because of this. And one night he escapes from Damascus. They lower him down in a basket over the city walls. And from Damascus, he goes back to Jerusalem. And he wants to meet the apostles there. But we can understand that the apostles are not too keen on meeting him. I mean, he was a persecutor of the church. He was trying to destroy the church. He was responsible that the church had scattered out of Jerusalem. He was the guy who held the coats of the people who stoned Stephen. So the apostles are not too keen on meeting him. And what I like about this story is in Acts chapter 9, and I think it's verse 26. It says there, but Barnabas. The apostles didn't want to meet Paul at all. They weren't interested in him. They were a little bit frightened of him. But then we read in verse 26, but Barnabas. Barnabas was different. Barnabas got to know Saul, and he went to the apostles and he told them about the meeting that Saul had with Jesus on the road to Damascus, and he told them about how fearless Saul had been in proclaiming Jesus in that city. Barnabas wasn't there. He just knew the story from Saul, but still he told him that. Saul, he went about Jerusalem fearlessly proclaiming that Jesus was the Messiah. He went from one synagogue to the other. The people couldn't understand it at first because he was the persecutor of the church, who's now become the professor of faith and who's now trying to build this church. Also in Jerusalem, people threatened to kill him. And then the apostles decide it's better if they get him out of the city. They have him taken to Caesarea, and in the northern part of Israel on the coast. And from Caesarea, he's sent across the Mediterranean Sea by ship and sent back to Tarsus, where he originally came from. Tarsus is a city in the modern Turkey. Barnabas, he was a guy who could spot people and spot what God had put in people, and he used this gift then to invest in them and to bring out whatever God had put in their lives. Of course, the reasons were very understandable that to keep out of Saul's way. I mean, he was a persecutor of the church, and they wanted to avoid him as much as they could, but Barnabas didn't. Barnabas was different. Barnabas, we heard his real name was Joseph. Barnabas was a kind of nickname that they had given him. Barnabas is a Greek name, and it means the son of encouragement. And a bit of trivial information for you at the moment. Barnabas is the favourite boy's name in the country of Hungary. So there you are. But anyway, his name in Hebrew, in the Hebrew language, was Barnabas. And Barnabas means the son of prophecy or the son of the prophet. And you know, I love the gift of prophecy. I love it to see the gift of prophecy used in the church, because with this gift we get a perspective of how heaven sees us. We get a perspective of how we are in the eyes of God. God has created us with lots of different kinds of potential. Of course, He loves us and so on, but He's put so much within us. And Jesus, he uses this gift. In one place, he met a guy called Simon, and he says, "You're Simon, but you're going to be called Peter." And he didn't just mean that his name would be changed, but also that what God had put in this Peter, this Simon. Simon means reed. He was a person who was always swaying from one opinion to the other. And he says, "You're going to be Peter," and Peter means rock. You're going to move from being this man who's easily moved in this way and the other way, depending how the wind is blowing, and you're going to become a rock. In another place, Jesus makes a guy called Nathaniel, and he says, "This is Nathaniel. You're an Israelite. There is no guile in you. There's nothing wrong with you at all." Saul was rejected, but he was accepted by Barnabas. Barnabas saw traces of the grace of God in his life. Barnabas was a prophet, and prophets encourage. Barnabas had always included people who were excluded by others. He could always see things in people, and he helped to develop these things, these gifts in them. He didn't feel that people were a threat to him. Sometimes we are threatened by people because their gift and their calling is stronger than what we have. And what happened in the relationship with Barnabas and Saul was that they were later sent out. Barnabas was the team leader, and it was Barnabas and Saulus. And then when they arrived in Asia Minor, what is today Turkey, something changed in the team. Saul changed his name from Saul to Paul, and then the team is called the Paul and Barnabas team, and later it's just called Paul and his companions team. But that didn't worry. Things like that didn't worry Barnabas, because he had this great heart for people. He's a prophet, and prophets encourage. In the book of Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 30, God speaks to Moses about Joshua, and he says, "Strengthen him, encourage him, then he is going to divide the land, the promised land, as an inheritance to the people of God." And in Acts chapter 15 verse 32, we are introduced to Judas and Silas, and the Bible says that they themselves were prophets who said much to encourage and to strengthen the brothers. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 2, Paul says, "We sent Timotheus, our brother, to you to strengthen you and to encourage you." In Hebrews 3 verse 13, we're told to encourage one another daily, because we're living in the last days. During these days of the restrictions on leaving home, the curfews and so on, where we are living, these things are now being restricted. But in other places of the world, they're still very, very strict. And it's very easy that we can lose sight of people, and that people begin to feel very much alone. They've kind of dropped through the net. Maybe you have a think on today. This is my challenge for you today, that you have a think about people who you've not heard for quite a long time, people who you've not had contact to, and maybe you encourage these people today by a WhatsApp or an SMS, or maybe you call them or send them an email, or even write a postcard or send them a letter, or do something to encourage them, because there's something of Barnabas in you, and just exercise this gift today. God bless you. Have a good day. This is Bob Hatton.